Good morning and welcome to Lattes and Leaders with Dr. Brad Johnson, best-selling author and accomplished public speaker specializing in education and educational leadership. I am your co-host, Jeremy Johnson, organizational psychology consultant specializing in career coaching, training, and development. Meet us here each week to discuss topics in education and leadership and meet with some of the top education talent and thought partners from across the globe. So grab your latte, sit back, and enjoy a relaxed conversation that will leave you informed and encouraged. This morning we have a very special guest with us. We have Dr. Rachel Edoho-Eket. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, good morning. Glad you're finally here. Good to see you.
You as well.
Let's get started. Tell us a little bit about your journey so far and some of the things that you're working on now.
Thank you again for having me. My name is Rachel Edoho-Eket, and I currently serve as a principal in an elementary school in Maryland. Before that, when I started my career, I was a kindergarten teacher, and I love teaching 5-year-olds and just being that ambassador for families and new students and children as they enter the school. And I had a great mentor who was a former principal of mine who said one day, "I think you could be an administrator." And at the time, I wasn't interested in that role, but she saw something in me that really helped me to understand how I could have a bigger influence on not only the children that I served, but also the teachers and the entire community. After about a decade in the classroom, I transitioned to being an assistant principal, and I served in that role for 4 years. And now I'm in my 6th year as a current school principal. And I'm really enjoying that work. I've learned so much, and I'm continuing to learn from so many amazing teachers and leaders all across the country.
That's so awesome. And I like that you talk about someone seeing something in you. I think that's so important. Often share, we see in others what that we often don't see in ourselves. And so it's good to have someone that not only sees that, but articulates that to you and encourages you in that, because that, allows you maybe to go further than you even thought about going before.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's something that's great about our role too, because we can do the same now for other people. So one of my friends recently was just promoted into the assistant principalship, and we talked about over this past year, she did an internship experience with me, and I said, I see you as being that school-based leader. And we had a similar conversation. She said, "Nope, I don't think so. I'm just fulfilling my certification." I said, "Nope, I think you'll be more than that." And she just got her promotion this week.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah, that's great. So you mentioned when you were telling us about your background a little bit, some of the works that you've done with families. So can you speak a little bit about the importance of reaching the greater community in your schools and maybe some of the ways that you've implemented that in your roles?
Yeah, thank you. So I love working with the families and with communities. One of the things I always do, and I did it as a teacher as well as I do in my role as a principal, is just being very approachable to families, letting them know that they can call me at any time, that they can stop by the office. It's very important that the families see a school leader, that we're both visible, and not only visible, that we're present, that we know their children. So one of the simplest ways that I build relationships and support families is by getting to know their child. What's their child's name? What are their child's interests? When I have an opportunity to build a relationship with the student, that's a great bridge for building relationships with families. Sometimes families need support with finding out, where educational resources are. I can help connect families to those. I also like to connect family to community-based resources that may not be educationally, academically based. There may be some resources that families might need outside of the school. And I love working with our teaching staff to connect resources for families. So anytime a family or a child is experiencing something that they need support with, then that's my time and my role to kind of step in and start making that connections for families, or networking with our staff, seeing what skills are present in the staff and who can I connect people with? So that's one of my
Mm,
greatest joys, is finding out what families need, what students need, what teachers need at times, and figuring out who are the people within the network who can best support them. And so that's something that I have done over many years. I'm in a new school this year, so I'm really excited to get to know all of the new families, all of the new students, the new staff members. That has really re-energized me and brought me back to some of those best practices that I'm continuing to use.
Oh, I love that so much, and it's so important. And I love what you said about being present, being visible for the families, because it's like, because I think we understand that sometimes the students that don't like school don't like it because they had parents that don't like it. And so for you to be able to build that kind of warm and friendly relationship with them, to let them see, hey, it's okay, it's a safe place, your kids are welcome, you're welcome. And I think that really helps, build that community with them. Do you have a tip, because you are at a new school, for like new administrators? And I know Jeremy will probably ask later, but like, what will you do first, or maybe that you've already done, to like start building that engagement with them?
Yeah, so this is my first time transitioning as an administrator. I was an administrator at my school previously for 9 years. So I am
mm,
learning along the way as well. One of the things that I did, as when it was announced that I was transitioning, I received so many letters from my previous school community just saying what they liked and enjoyed about me as a leader. And one of the things that they said was
oh,
that
good.
you knew my child's name and that you were always present in a car loop or at school events. So one of the first things that I did in my new school is talk with my assistant principal and the previous principal and ask them for a yearbook. So I'm currently studying the yearbook so that I can learn to know the staff members' names and the students' names. I also asked that in my first community letter, I said, if you're ever by the school, please come by and visit me. My door is always open. So I've been having families take me up on that. They've been visiting. I've been learning some magic tricks. I've been trying to do those with the students with limited success. But that's been a lot of fun to get them into the office. I have lots of books and games and Legos and coloring that the children like to do. And it gives me a time to connect with their parents and with the students at the same time.
Oh, wow, I love that. That's so powerful. Yeah, I mean, what a way to come in and making an immediate impact.
Thank you. It's been great. It's been an awesome transition so far.
Wow, wow, great. Um, so along those same lines, can you tell us a little bit about your personal qualities that you think have contributed most to your success?
Yeah, so first, I love people. I tell people if you're going to be a school leader, you have to like people. This is a very
Mm-hmm.
people centered role. Not only are we serving adults, but we're serving children. So it's unique. School leaders are unique in that way that we are serving different constituents. But people have the same need. People want to feel welcomed, people want to feel valued, and people want to feel important. So I think one of the strengths that I bring to the role is, number one, I like people. I also like to add value. So if there's something that someone needs, one of my strengths is figuring out who to connect people with. So I've talked about that already, but that follow through is something that's important to me. So if someone says they need something, I may not have the answer, but I can figure out who I need to speak to help get us closer to an answer. Another strength of mine is communication. This is a role you have to have really good communication skills. You have to be able to talk to the right people with the right message at the right time. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I have cultivated and I'm continuing to learn. But communication is definitely something that I'm strong in. And another strength that I have is I'm organized. So this is one of those roles where you have to have a high level of organization, but you also have to be flexible because things change. So I think I have the right mix of being organized and responsive, but also being able to pivot when something changes.
Oh, great, great.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned how important approachability is. I mean, that's huge. So, I mean, it's just very important to build those relationships, to, have people feel like they can just stop by, and that's great. It's,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of transparency. Um, So,
Yeah.
yeah,
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 and that's
definitely
something
appreciate
that
that.
again I'm new to transitioning, but I know what has been successful in my previous experiences. So I'm really trying to cultivate and beef those things up that I know work well with all school communities. And it's just been such a wonderfully welcoming experience. The community has been so kind to me, and I'm
Oh,
really
good.
looking forward to working with a new group this year.
Great. So, can you tell us about a few of the challenges you faced in your leadership roles?
Yeah, so one of the largest challenges that I had was being a new principal during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Mm.
I
Oh,
was
wow.
promoted in the year 2019 into 2020. And we all know in March of 2020, the world changed. And so
Hmm.
that was extremely difficult, I think, for any teacher or any leader who was present during COVID-19. We started off kind of, I like to say it ended up kind of being a roller coaster, but initially I had a lot of energy around, okay, we'll be home for 2 weeks. I'll see you in 2 weeks. That didn't happen. Then we were doing a lot of this virtual learning. That was such a challenge. Communicating with families, getting families connected, to Wi-Fi, making sure that people had what they needed. We had a lot of people, unfortunately, who became ill. So that was really hard. And I think being a new leader, I was looking to other leaders for advice, and everyone was new. That was something that was the beauty of that time. Even if you were a veteran, you were new again, right? You were a new principal. And so it was very challenging to balance the needs of the community, the needs of the staff, and also the needs of my own personal family. So that was really challenging years ago, but the challenges are still persisting. So we still have families in need. We still have students who are working on attendance and families. We have challenges with anxiety and people feeling anxious about school. Behavior challenges. So those are all
Hmm.
challenges I think that are persisting. And again, communication is really important there. Just finding out and listening to what families need. What does staff need? What do our students need? And then figuring out how to meet some of those needs in the best way that we can. Those have been some of the challenges that are definitely ongoing.
Yeah, I can imagine first year and then COVID hitting and but like you said, in a way it was everybody was in the same boat. So everybody was new to it. But that was a tough time, like you said, trying because we thought it would be a short period and then it wasn't, and we had to transition everything. Um,
Yes.
and like you said, we're still kind of dealing with some of the effects of it, even almost 4 years later. So um,
Yes.
but yeah, I love that just your attitude of just being flexible. I think that's not talked about enough because I think some people, when they get into leadership roles, they feel like, well, I got here because of what I do, so I'll do it my way. And, that's just not necessarily the case, especially when you're dealing with so many dynamics. And like you said, as a principal, I always say it's kind of like the loneliest job there is because you're, working with the district on mandates and different things. And then you're trying to work with your teachers, then you have the parents, then you have the students, and so it's like you're trying to figure out how to deal with all these things at once. And you do, I mean, you got to be flexible and adaptable to be able to survive that.
Yeah, it is a very unique role, and that's one of the things that I do love about it. But yes, it has its challenges, and so many more rewards definitely outweigh those challenges. But definitely the challenges that you mentioned, trying to be everything for everybody, that's a part of the role that that's not necessarily in the books when we're going through our trainings, right? How do you meet the needs that are competing? And if you can't do that, then how do you communicate that transparently and still hold the relationships positively? Those are definitely, some of the things that come along with being a school-based administrator.
Well, I love what you said about communication because that really is the key, because I'm like, I know there's some leaders that really aren't good maybe at the relationship part and building relationships, but I'm like, as long as you're communicating that to your staff, that maybe I'm not the best at it, but I am working on it and I want to do better. just that ability to communicate that is more important than really the process itself. But that is that communicating part just is really is, I think, the key piece.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the strengths that I'm glad that I have. That is something that can be improved, right? We all have had conversations that did not go the way that we wanted them to go. And how can we learn for the future to ensure that the next time we have a similar conversation, the outcome is more positive. So,
Yep.
communication is, we're all definitely works in progress in that area.
So true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like you have a couple of different books that are available now. Can you give us a snippet or two?
Yes, thank you. So I've written two books, one for adults and one for children. I've always wanted to be an author, and this has been something that has given me a lot of joy to write. So the first book is written for adults called The Principal's Journey, Navigating the Path to School Leadership. And it's for teachers, assistant principals, or central office leaders who want to get into leadership and continue to grow in that area. The book really talks about what experiences are necessary to help you become a stronger leader. If you want to be a principal, I talk about which interview questions you should be studying, how you can really beef up your resume and make sure your cover letter is great. And then I talk about how to be successful on the job once you get it. So, what does your first year look like as a school based leader? How do you have conversations that are challenging? How do you set up that great positive school culture? And also, how do you take care of yourself? How do you have a balance between work and home? Because we know that that is an extremely challenging part of the job, but so necessary. And then I also
Mm-hmm.
have a book for children. It's called The Principal's Pals. And that book was written and it came out of my work at my previous school. We do something called the Principal of the Day with a student. And then we have an assistant principal of the day. So two students are chosen by lottery and they get to spend the entire day with the principal and the assistant principal. We do a fire drill. We walk around in classrooms. We talk with the head custodian. We do all of the roles and functions. The community and the staff really get into it. We address the student as the principal for the day. We dress up. We have lunch.
Oh,
It's
wow.
a great opportunity for students to learn more about what the principal does. And so I wrote a book about those experiences, and it's dedicated to my grandmother, who was a public school teacher for 30 years. And she's one of the characters. She was a school librarian. So the students in the story go to the school librarian to learn more about how to be great and kind leaders.
I love that. And what a tribute to your grandmother, too. That is
Thank
wonderful.
you. Yeah, it was so much fun to write and to see children reading it. And then I have an activity book that goes along with it. All of the activities correspond with the book, so they come as a set together. And it really is a nice way, no technology needed. So the students are doing writing prompts, they're doing coloring pages, word searches. It's just been amazing to see the children learning as a result of that book. So both of those books, The Principal's Journey and The Principal Pals, are on Amazon now. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. And we'll have links for it. So, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Awesome. Yeah. Um, so can you tell us about an educator or two, either from your personal education or maybe some that you've worked with that have left the greatest impact on you?
Yeah, so many. It's hard to choose, but I do love this question. I would say I'm going to start back to elementary school. One of my favorite principals, name is Mr. Slacum. He is still a mentor of mine today. He was my principal when I was in second grade. I loved his approachability. We've already talked about what does that presence mean? What does it mean to be visible? And that's who he was. He knew us by name. He was ahead of his time. We would go to the office for positive reasons. So I never went to the office for something negative, but when we did something well, we would have a pizza party. This was in the 80s, right? So he was ahead of his time there in just being that positive leader and cultivating that positive relationship so that I never knew I was going to be a principal in my adult life, but I knew I was going to be a teacher. I'm a third generation educator. So he helped me to see what was possible as a principal, even though I did not see it at the time. A lot of the things that he did, I do. So I have special greetings for students. He used to give us a thumbs up when he saw us. So those nonverbal cues, those are things that
Mm-hmm.
I do with my own students now. I do a lot of hugging. He hugged us a lot. He really just showed us that we were special to him. And so that's something that I do in letting children know that they are special to me. Um, Another person would definitely be all of my administrators in very different ways as a teacher, helped me to grow as a teacher and be more effective in my role. And several of my previous principals and assistant principals also poured into me and sharing that they saw some leadership qualities and gave me opportunities to be a mentor teacher, for instance, or being a team leader. Those were all things that were prior to the principalship, but helped me to grow as both a teacher and a leader.
So earlier you mentioned self care and how important it is. So I have to ask, how do you take care of yourself? How do you do that for you?
Yeah. So I'm very simple. I do not go to the gym, but I do work out 10 minutes every day. I really try to be consistent. I found with myself
Hmm.
consistency is really important. I really do try to think about my day and structure it so that I'm working really hard while I'm at school every single day. But at the end of each day, that is then my time for my family and for my friends. I know as teachers and as educators, we sometimes feel a lot of guilt around leaving things unfinished or leaving things on our to do list. But over time, I have matured and found out that there will always be things on our to do list. There will always be an email. There will always be one more thing we need to accomplish. However, the people in our lives are not guaranteed to be there, but the work is guaranteed to be there. So
Hmm.
I had to really mature in the role and understand that I can be great at school and I can also be great at home. I never want to be in a situation where I'm great at school and revered in a community, but not in my own home.
Yeah.
So that is something that helps to keep me grounded in my perspective that you can do two things well at one time, but each needs their own time to be done well.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. You're so right. It's as educators, it's almost like it's instilled within us to, go, 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 never have
Yeah.
an off switch. But like you said, I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want to look back and regret that your family suffered because of a job. And it's an
Right.
important job. It really is. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's a job, and we want to, like you said, give it our best, but we need to give our best to our family too. So I love that. I think that's a
Yes.
healthy way to look at it. And I think a lot of times when teachers see their principal doing that, it kind of allows them the freedom to do that too. So I think just
Yes.
modeling that for your staff is probably more important than anything you could really say to them pertaining to that.
Yes. Yeah, I again have been at my previous school for 9 years, but one of the things that spurred that was COVID-19. I didn't have any work life boundaries and I was in a really bad place mentally. And that was showing because I didn't have a off switch. I was truly working from home around the clock, beginning some mornings 5 a.m. all the way through past midnight. So I wasn't sleeping and I wasn't eating. I wasn't exercising. I was not taking care of myself, and that was bleeding into other areas of my life. And so I said to the staff, our first staff meeting back that year, that I am thankful we made it through that hard, really hard portion of the year and that experience. However, I do not have the capacity to continue at that pace. And
Hmm.
so I said, from that point forward, I would not be emailing them after a certain time, and I would like that they not email me after a certain time unless it was an emergency. They can call me. Everyone has my cell phone number, and that was our agreement. And from my team leaders, I heard, because you said that, that gave me permission and my team. We don't text at dinner anymore. We let it go, and we will come back together in the morning. And I said, that's perfect. And so I really hope that I can continue to model that because I've been able to accomplish so much more outside of my, principalship. I've been able to write books. I've been able to do speaking engagements. I've been able to create leadership courses. I've been able to coach and mentor, which is another passion of mine. But I would not be able to do that without those boundaries in my life.
I think that's so important for leaders to remember. we always talk about and reminding teachers that they set the example, they model for their students, but leaders model for their staff too. So that, I think that's a really good takeaway from that to remember, is that your staff's watching you. And and it's like the old saying, what you do is much louder than what you say. So
Yes.
yeah, I love that. I think that's a good perspective.
Thank you.
All right, so we have just one last question, and this is the hard one. So, but this is called Lattes and Leaders. So, what is your hot beverage of choice if you have one? Is it coffee, latte, cappuccino, tea, or something totally different?
It will always be hot chocolate. I'm
Oh,
not a coffee
nice.
drinker.
No?
And I love chocolate, so it's hot chocolate for me.
Okay, yeah. It's funny, we have a few people that have been on and they're like, well, I don't drink coffee. And I'm like, that's okay. I just came up with a term to make it, kind of like sitting at a coffee shop, relaxed and
Yeah.
talking. But, and one guy, you probably know Willie Spear or have heard of him, the speaker. And he was talking about he's never drank coffee because when he was a child, he started to drink some of his mom's and she hid him because coffee's for adults. And I was like,
Yes.
that's how I was raised too. That wasn't a drink for child. So he's like, I've never drinking as adult because all I remember is her hitting me and I'm
Oh,
afraid
wow.
she'll do it again.
That's funny. That's funny.
So but hot chocolate is a great answer. So
Yes.
but yeah, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing. I mean, you have a wonderful journey. We got to meet in Orlando not long ago. I've been following you for a long time on social media. And so just really enjoy all that you're doing, the success that you're having. And
Thank you so
just thought it
much.
would be, yeah, I thought it'd be wonderful for you to share all that with us.
Oh,
So
I'm
thank you.
I'm so thankful. I've read several of your books as a teacher and a leader, and I'm just very grateful we've had the opportunity to continue to connect. That means a lot to me.
And me too. Yeah. Thank you so much.
So, do you have any last pearls of wisdom for those in leadership?
Yes, I would definitely say to lead authentically, be yourself. This is one of those roles where there's not going to be a standardized way to do it successfully. You can look
Mm-hmm.
at other people and take things that work for them that may incorporate and work for you. However, ultimately, you are the one who is in that seat for a reason. You're there because you have a unique set of skills that have brought you there, and continue to tap into what makes you a unique leader so that you can continue to help and support other people along their educational journeys. So, and I also just want to say thank you. This work is not easy. This work is great work, but it is challenging at times. And just to stay the course, choose to come every day back to this work and continue to pour into other people just the same way that other people have poured into your life.
Well said. Well said.
Mm-hmm. Well, it has been a pleasure talking to you today. We hope to have you back on soon and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. I would love that. Thanks again.
This has been Lattes and Leaders with Dr. Brad Johnson. We hope that you leave today feeling informed and inspired. For more educational content, be sure to add this podcast to your list and follow Dr. Johnson on any and all social media platforms. For more information on Dr. Johnson, Jeremy Johnson, and special guest, check out drbradjohnson.com. That is DOCTOR, bradjohnson.com. Hope to have you back soon.